Good morning on this Sunday, November 1st, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. The two presidential hopefuls in Georgia this week proving the state is a battleground. It's a fight to the finish for candidates in both Georgia U.S. Senate races. Will we have one runoff or two? And Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms addresses the increase in violent crime in her city. Darren, Phil, Janelle, and Kathy are here as we continue our social distancing. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
2 days, folks, until Election Day. More than 3.5 million Georgians have already cast ballots. Both President Trump and former Vice President Biden are making their case to Georgia voters.
Tell you this from my heart. I believe America in an America of hope, not fear. Unity, not division. Love, not hate.
Former Vice President Joe Biden traveled Tuesday to Warm Springs, Georgia, with a message of unity. Nearby, Governor Brian Kemp and other Republicans held a rally of their own, saying Georgia will remain in the red column.
We're firing up the troops and welcoming the Vice President to Georgia and letting them know that there's no electoral votes for sale here, but there's probably some good fried chicken or barbecue.
Yeah.
Later today, President Trump is expected in Rome. One last chance to court Georgia voters. And Phil, let's start with you this week. There's been a lot of talk about turnout at the polls in the metro areas, but in Insider Advantage this week, you point out that some of the rural areas are also seeing a surge. Let's talk about that.
That's right. As I've said before on the broadcast, it's an election between Metro Atlanta and all of the counties, 129 of them outside Metro Atlanta. And the off the charts are some of these Republican counties. You mentioned Rome a minute ago, where the president will be rallying. That's a big Republican bastion. We'll keep an eye out on turnout there, which is already off the charts. Forsyth County, Cherokee County, even Columbia County, a Republican stronghold by Augusta. And I think the magic number, and I think the other panelists will agree with me, is with regard to the African-American vote. As of Friday morning on GeorgiaVotes.com, which tracks the numbers every day, the black turnout was 27.5%. Now, in the Obama days, it got up to 30% in Georgia. And so both Republicans and Democrats are looking at that. Now, yes, we have until Tuesday, and those numbers can change, but just remember that 30% because those are reliably Democratic votes for the most part, and that'll be critical to the election.
Darren, you're on the Biden campaign team, so I want you to tell us what it was like at his events this week, but also, to Phil's point, are you satisfied with African-American turnout, which has been hovering around 28%? Does that number have to be higher for Joe Biden to win in Georgia and for the Democrats to do well?
Well, I just love it when Phil Kent starts talking about black support in Georgia. That lets you know that we've come a long way. But I think the one thing that I'm really focusing on, Lori, it's just not black turnout, but just Democratic turnout all across the state. I truly believe that we will never see African Americans turn out at the rate that we saw during 2008 when President Barack Obama was running, and also in 2012. What I'm encouraged about is that not only are we doing well in the metro area, some of these rural counties that Phil are referencing, there are other rural counties around Georgia where we see Democrats doing extremely well. You know, I have to steal this sort of phrase from my good friend Michael Thurman, who made a comment this week, and he said that the Corona Coalition, and this is a coalition of rural and metro voters, are going to ultimately decide who the next president is going to be, and ultimately going to decide who wins in Georgia. And I believe that this is again, biracial, it's definitely demographically diverse. And then lastly, you know, as far as Vice President Biden being here this week, that just shows you with 7 days left to go in the election, he chose to be in battleground Georgia. And to let our viewers know that Senator Kamala Harris will be back in Georgia today, this Sunday, as we take on Friday, and she'll be in Gwinnett County. And so you're getting the future president of the United States and the future vice president of the United States in Georgia in the last week. So that shows you that we believe we can win here. And with Trump coming back, that shows you that he believes that he could possibly lose in this state.
Yeah, Kathy, weigh in here. President Trump is in Georgia yet again. Does that surprise you? And, you know, Democrats are a diverse group. We talked about the African-American turnout, but, you know, we are seeing, you know, Democratic turnout in other parts of the state as well.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think what we've been seeing all along, and I love the phrase Corona Coalition. I hadn't heard that before, and I think that's really apt, is that, Vice President Biden is pulling white voters, suburban women in particular, at much higher rates. You can't isolate into any one demographic to see how we're going to do, although I like all traditional Democratic demographics to be voting at record levels. So we're going to be working really hard on that between now and Tuesday. Clearly, the president is concerned because Georgia, while it should be very high on Biden's list to win, the president has to win Florida in order to make it to the finish line, and things aren't looking that great for him there. So, they're really scraping to try to win anywhere they can and shore this up, and I'm feeling really good about where we are.
Janelle, let's talk about what Theron and Kathy have said about President Trump. Do you believe that the campaign thinks that they're losing in Georgia and that's why he's back?
I don't think he thinks he's losing. I think that he's back because of the fact that there's just a number of voters that are here that needs to hear a message as positive. I feel like the Biden-Harris ticket is just like they are the king and queen of contradictions. They say that, we're all about unity, but yet they refer to Republicans as chumps. They make fun of our race as Black conservatives. They call us super spreaders when there's no data of that. So, I just think that all in all, they're just contradictions. And I think that's why you're also seeing lower turnout when it comes to the Black vote, because some people are just sitting in apathy. They don't know what to do. They're being told that if you vote for the Republicans and you're voting for racists, which we know is not true, and then they're told that they vote for Biden and Harris and they're voting for someone who was a segregationist but no longer is. So, it's just a lot of confusion that's going on, and I think we're going to totally see the results of that at the polls on Election Day.
Let's talk about the polls. They say that this is going to be a really close race between Biden and Trump here in Georgia. 4 years ago, Phil, Trump won by 5 percentage points. Do you believe the polls today?
I don't believe a lot of the polls, like the Quinnipiac poll or the University of Georgia poll. I've discussed that. I think the weighting is off and the metrics. I do praise the landmark Rosetta Stone poll that has Trump up by 2 in the state of Georgia. And our former Fox 5 political analyst, Insider Advantage Chairman Matt Towery, has gone through the crosstabs of the landmark poll. He agrees that Trump will pull it out in Georgia. So I thought that was an interesting insight. It's very difficult to poll, but I think that the Trump campaign feels it's in very good shape.
Theron, do you think that Democrats have done absolutely everything that they can to court the rural vote? Because that's where they're weak. Theron, can you hear me? All right. Kathy, why don't you address that as a Democrat?
Yep, sure. Well, until it's over, you haven't done everything you can do. But I think that Democrats have made a very, very good case to rural voters of why this election is important. It is important because of the support that the current administration failed to give our farmers after the hurricane blew through there. It took months to get aid, even though we have the Secretary of Agriculture from our state. People in the rural part of our state are losing hospitals on a pretty regular basis because there aren't enough people insured in those areas and there are not enough jobs that provide insurance. So the failure to expand Medicaid and the threat of losing the Affordable Care Act is something that is really, really important to rural voters. So I think that there's a lot there. But we've got to work very, very hard all the way till the polls close on Tuesday.
All right, we have Theron back. I apologize for those technical issues. Theron, just wrap it up for me in 20 seconds here.
Kathy said it best, but I just want to push back on this notion that we're weak. We're not weak. We're actually making tremendous strides in rural areas. And I think what you would say, anybody that's weak, I think the Republicans are really worried about them not performing at the level that they want to perform in the rural areas. But, ultimately, this campaign is about bringing all Georgians together. And I think that Democrats have been waiting on this moment for 18 years to turn Georgia blue again.
All right, we'll leave it there, everyone. Thank you. Coming up, after a fiery debate in Savannah, Republican incumbent David Perdue bows out of a last debate to attend Trump's rally here in Rome. We'll discuss coming up.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
Republican incumbent Senator David Perdue and Democrat Jon Ossoff will not square off for a final debate after Senator Perdue said he'll skip it to attend President Trump's rally in Rome. Theron, these two went after each other again at a debate in Savannah this week in what has become an extremely close race according to the polls. Why so close?
Lori, it was because Jon Ossoff was on fire. I mean, if you guys watch that debate, I mean, I wouldn't want to debate Jon Ossoff right now. I mean, he had one of the best debate performances that I've seen during this election season. He was very accurate and concise, and quite frankly, drawing the line between Senator Perdue and President Trump and how they collectively, jointly, have failed the people of Georgia on a lot of policies that he mentioned. And so I think David Perdue realized that if you go on another debate with this guy at a time where he's clicking on all cylinders, you stand the chance of losing more voters than you can gain. Now, him being in with Donald Trump, that was a great opportunity for his team to really figure out the reason why he's going to miss the debate, because he can say that he's going to be with the President of the United States of America. But ultimately, I think Jon Ossoff has got the momentum, and I think he may pull the upset on Tuesday.
Janelle, a Jon Ossoff campaign post went viral after he posted a blistering attack against David Perdue during that Savannah debate. I mean, at last count, I think it was viewed some 10 million times. What do you think? I mean, Jon Ossoff is a great debater. What did you think about the debate, and why, in your opinion, is this race so close when we thought just a couple of months ago David Perdue had it?
Well, I mean, the race, I don't know exactly why the race is appearing to be close. We don't know if that's the case as it is, because we don't know what these polls are really saying. But I will say that, just Senator Perdue is not, taking this debate off because he wants to be with the president. It's because he wants to be with the people. Early on, we couldn't do any type of real direct voter contact because of COVID, and now we have measures in place that allow you to be able to interact with your constituents. And Senator Perdue, that's what he wants. He wants to be with his constituents. Jon Ossoff wants to sit in chairs and scream at each other. And then the clip that we're talking about doesn't show David Perdue's rebuttal. So, I mean, I think it's just really funny that that's his way of showing that he did well, is by just sharing his questions. And then at the end of the day, Ossoff is not fooling anyone. He couldn't even fool his own staffer, who went on video saying that he is not who he said he is, that he's really not a moderate, that he's really a socialist, but he's just saying this, and he thinks that all Georgians are fools. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we have to show the truth, and I think it's a very clear and simple decision. David Perdue has proven results, and that's it, and that's who you should go with, because we know what he can do and not what Jon Ossoff is trying to convince us of.
This race is close. I mean, it has the potential to go into a runoff, so we'll see. And another final Senate debate canceled after Republican incumbent Kelly Loeffler and Democrat Raphael Warnock bailed in Georgia's other Senate race. Kathy, Warnock is working hard, but also he can kind of just sail into a runoff while the two Republicans are really trying to take each other out.
Well, yeah, never say never. Again, we're 2 days from Election Day, but it does look good for Reverend Warnock to be in what is likely to be a runoff in that race. I'm sorry that, debates, there's always been debate, times when debates have to be negotiated and people come and they don't come, but in this era of social media and negative TV ads, debates are really the only opportunity that voters have to actually see somebody talk, spontaneously. So I'm sorry that we're not having more of those, but I do understand from a campaign's perspective how risky it is. And let me just say about Senator Perdue, he's had 4 years to connect with voters. He doesn't need to go to Rome to find a way to do it. He has simply not been present to voters in this state in the 4 years he's been there, and now he's trying to make up for lost time, and I think it's really going to hurt him.
All right, Phil, I do want to go back to the Loeffler race, Senate race number 2, as we refer to it. We know really this will go into a runoff, but who do you think has the edge? Is it Loeffler or Collins on the Republican side?
Well, I'll address Loeffler and Collins in a minute, but I do have to push back on Kathy. If you look at the favorability ratings of Senator David Perdue, they have been excellent over the last 5 years, and he has a great constituent service with his staff that helps people from getting VA loans to farm loans, and that's very important too, and that cuts across all political lines. And so I think also the Perdue message of let's reopen the economy and let's fight the virus, but we're going to have to live with it, I think that contrasts with this dark winter that Biden and Ossoff and Warnock keep talking about. I think that, as I said last week, I think Doug Collins is making a movement. Warnock will come in first in this jungle primary of 2021 candidates. Who's going to come in second? It's a toss-up, Lori. I can't tell you. But I mentioned the rural vote is off the charts in a lot of these Republican counties, and you may have to think that may help Doug Collins.
We will see. And Theron, I do want to talk about the 7th Congressional District just briefly. Rich McCormick, who went to the Morehouse School of Medicine and taught there, he calls himself a Morehouse man, but some critics say he can't make that claim. Where do you weigh in here?
Well, as you know, Laura, I went to the university in the AUC, and that is Clark Atlanta University, which, we have a great brotherhood and sisterhood relationship with Morehouse and Spelman and also Morris Brown and ITC. I asked a couple of my Morehouse buddies this week about this claim from Rich McCormick of being a Morehouse man. And honestly, it was received with mixed reviews. I mean, I think, he went to the Morehouse School of Medicine where Dr. Montgomery Rice is excellent in leading that wonderful medical school. But there were some that kind of felt like that doesn't necessarily give you the full Morehouse experience. But ultimately, look, he got his degree from there. He paid his money. He's sort of, promoting this HBCU, which I'm always very fond of. So I guess if he wants to call himself a Morehouse man, so be it.
Janelle, last word on this, and then we'll take a break. Some of McCormick's critics have asked him to take down the ad. What do you think?
I think it's absolutely absurd. I am also an HBCU graduate, and I'm an HBCU graduate not because of the fact that someone validated me or said, or a white woman or a black woman said that I'm a graduate. It's because of the fact that I actually graduated from the school, and so did Dr. McCormick. He taught there, he graduated from there. He had one of his students at the HBCU panel that he and I did this past weekend. So, I mean, I'm telling you, he is exactly what a Morehouse man should be, which is someone who gives back, which is someone who represents their school, represents HBCUs, and it's just an excellent example of leadership.
And we'll see if voters think
they
that
should
this
be
is
proud
important.
to have him.
All right, thanks, Janelle. Coming up, Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms addresses the rise in violent crime in her city. We'll discuss.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
This week, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms held a virtual news conference acknowledging the city's spike in the murder rate and other violent crimes. Now, Kathy, if you do a Google search of the crime rate in Atlanta, it really does not paint a pretty picture. The city council wants to hold those arrested for street racing in jail until they go before a judge for bond. And I mean, it looks like folks from the north to the south side of town have had enough. As the former city council president, weigh in, please.
Hey, the people are speaking on this one. It is very, very scary to be caught up in an area where there's a lot of street racing going on. And unfortunately, because of the cars being off the road, we're seeing a lot of it. And we're seeing a lot of it across the country. So I think that, last week I said the mayor needs to get home and get on top of this because you can really hear people's concern and focus on this. So I think they're right to get about it, and I think they need to put a little work into this and figure it out.
Phil, what do you think about the fact? I mean, the mayor held a press conference. She's acknowledging this. She says she's working on it. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to agree with Kathy on some of her points, and it shows that it cuts across all political and racial lines in the city of Atlanta. The fact that the crime rate now is on a par with Chicago is an outrage. The mayor called it a problem in her press conference. No, it is a full-blown crisis. And I actually think there are two things the mayor could do. I've said that she could pledge right now, and I don't understand why she doesn't do it, pledge right now to support due process for all police officers that are involved in a shooting. And we'll find out if it was a righteous shooting or if it wasn't, but at least pledge that. And I'm going to agree with what Kathy said last week. We need a national search for a new police chief that could bring in reforms, yes, working with the community, but also more aggressive policing.
Farron, you're close to the mayor, so I want to get your thoughts. I mean, there is this perception, and Kathy alluded to it, that Mayor Bottoms has been in national magazines on the campaign trail for Joe Biden and has ignored the problems in her own city. I mean, people are scared to go to the malls, they're scared to pump gas, or even get groceries. Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah, that's just not true, Lori. And you know, this whole notion that she's ignoring the problem, I mean, she wakes up every single morning focusing on crime. I mean, she admitted that it is a problem. And she's also said that it's the #1 issue that's facing us as citizens of the city of Atlanta. And just because she's asked to be on a magazine cover or to do national interviews, that's a testament to her leadership. And so this whole notion that, you know, people on this panel and press and locally are trying to say that she's forgotten about Atlanta, it's just really unfortunate. I will tell you what she also said. She has admitted that it's a problem. She talked about car thefts and how we need to also make sure we reduce that, but people also need to be responsible. Don't leave your keys or your fobs in your car or your doors unlocked. She also talked about how they're investing in VIC cameras to make sure that we have more visibility where crime is happening. We need to change the environments. And then as far as this car racing, let me just say this. We can't lock up everyone, but we do need to make sure that we reduce the amount of car racing and that's going on. And more importantly, Lori, why don't someone just step up and say, why don't we build a track or have a track that is vacant and give these sort of drifters and these car racers a place to go and do it safely? Because if you don't necessarily match it with giving them an alternative to do it safely and just wanting to lock them up, it's only going to continue to rise. But I want to say this, that I've witnessed an accident with a good friend who watches this show where she and her kids were in an accident with a street racer, and that gentleman definitely should be punished and he should be cited, and I think we should suspend their licenses. But in doing that, we got to give them an opportunity to go somewhere in this state to actually do it safely, because it is a culture and it is a lot of people that are out here doing it. They just need to not do it on major interstates and roads, and to the fact where we can actually end up killing people.
Janelle, this is one topic I wish we had more time on. Let me give you the last word here.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious to say that we need a safe way to drag race. I don't know what's safe about drag racing. I think that we need to give more opportunities so people can have other things to do other than drag racing. I think giving a pass for crime is never the option. She's a leader. She's supposed to stand up and tell the community what the direction, give us a direction as to where this community should go, not give passes or create safe environments to commit crimes and to be dangerous.
All right, last word there, everyone. Thank you. And coming up, we'll have winners and losers. Stay tuned.
Time now for the week's winners and losers.
All right, Farron, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Lori. I am so excited to make my first winner, Chris Womack. Chris Womack was the External Affairs and Senior Vice President at Southern Company and was just named this week as the incoming president and ultimately will be the CEO of Georgia Power. He will be succeeding Paul Bowers, who's definitely done a good job there at Georgia Power. So I want to thank Paul for his service, but so excited to Chris. He's earned this moment. I think he's going to be a wonderful CEO. And also a big shout out to MARTA and Uber coming together to make sure that they are giving people rides to the polls and make sure they have transportation to make sure that they go out and vote on Tuesday. And then lastly, shout out to my good friend who I met, Joseph Moore, at the College Football Hall of Fame. He watches this show every Sunday, so definitely want to give him a shout out and all the people over there. And then lastly, I want to make sure that everyone goes and vote. Please, please go vote on Tuesday.
All right, thank you. And congrats to Chris Womack and Paul Bowers and to all of the Georgia Power workers who restored power this week after Zeta. Phil, over to you.
Well, I'll second the motion on Chris Womack and Paul Bowers. And by the way, I just don't have power yet. They say it won't be till Sunday, so maybe they'll help me. But secondly, I have to make as my loser the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And it is not covering the elections fairly. They have these downplay. In fact, omission is actually one of the worst crimes, in my opinion, of this newspaper. And that is they're not reporting all of the good economic news. They're not reporting the good news that the death rate is way down in Georgia for COVID and nationally, and I think that's good. And of course, they hate Trump. You never hardly see anything on Trump. So there's my loser.
All right, Janelle, over to you.
Okay, two quick winners. My first winner is Harrison Lance. He's running in the Georgia 6th Senate District. He's taken a huge step towards criminal justice reform and tackling these issue of street crime, something that I know that Atlanta should be doing. Next, he's just at this really strong platform, so if you see his name on the ballot, make sure you vote for Harrison Lance. And lastly, the Cobb Chamber of Commerce, who has begun handing out grant funds to local small businesses in the Cobb area. So shout out to John Loud and the Chamber team for just setting the bar high.
All right, Kathy, and over to you.
Sure. This is a little outside of Georgia these days, but Archbishop Wilton Gregory, who was formerly here in Atlanta, was just recently appointed cardinal by the Pope, and he's the first African American to hold that title. So congrats to hometown man. Also, I just want to give a shout out to Richard Barron and the Fulton County Board of Elections. I think that they have really done a good job during the early voting period. There has been COVID, power outages, wholesale turnover of election officials, and everything else you can imagine. And I feel like they've really pivoted and helped get a lot of voters through. So well done. Folks, make a plan for voting on Tuesday. You saw on Thursday there was a storm. And get out there and cast your vote so that we can all have our voice heard.
All right, thanks everyone. And finally, to all of you, whether you're a long-term viewer or you're new to us, thank you for tuning in. The numbers are telling us that our audience continues to really grow, and for that we are extremely grateful. See you next week when we'll hopefully know the outcome of all the races. Make it a great week.